Once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Pentagon and those watching live worldwide on the Pentagon channel. I'm Hank Manitres from the Army G1's office, and thank you so much for joining us as we kick off this year's annual Suicide Prevention Month Health Fair. Of course, the month of September is designated as Suicide Prevention Month under the theme, A Healthy Force is a Ready Force. Additionally, we join our nation in observing National Suicide Prevention Week all week long with events all over the world, post camps and stations just like this health fair, as we promote our efforts of Army family well-being, resilience, stigma reduction, and positive results achieved by getting involved and simply asking for help. To help kick things off this morning, we'll have an invocation by an appropriately named chaplain. Ladies and gentlemen, Chaplain Dallas Spate.
Would you pray with me, please? Almighty God, our Father, truly you are the source of our hope, our strength, and our life. May this day our prayer be that of the psalmist when he prayed, You alone are my refuge, my strength, my hope, and my fortress, my God in whom I will trust. As we gather to celebrate health and life, may our hearts be encouraged and refreshed. May those who struggle with doubts and fears find sources of hope and help, not only here, but through their relationships, their faith resources, and the multitude of other resources that are made available here today. Bless those who have come to share their resources and those who will be reviewing and receiving them. May those unique and special moments occur, the meeting of those in need and those with sources to help, for it is only in those moments that only you can orchestrate. Continue, O God, to bestow your blessings upon our military and civilian leaders during these challenging days. May you also bless the guest speaker, Mr. Herschel Walker, and may his words penetrate our hearts. For we pray these requests in your precious and holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. And ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I am pleased to present the Deputy Chief of Staff for Army Personnel, the Army G1, Lieutenant General Howard Bromberg.
Well, thank you and good morning, and thank you all for attending today on this great, beautiful day, and a beautiful day to celebrate many, many things. And thank you for coming out and supporting suicide prevention. As you know, every suicide in our Army is a tragic loss that not just adversely affects every single family or friend or comrade of the person who was lost, but it also affects our unit readiness. And this is absolutely a battle that we have to engage in every single day. And I'm asking you today and this whole month just to think about that as military members, family members, teammates, civilians, neighbors, and friends, that we look out for everybody. We look out for each other. We take care of everybody as a community. We need to know and understand and recognize the warning signs of suicide and not turn our eye to them and not be too busy to pay attention to them, as we were talking in the office earlier with Mr. Walker and the Surgeon General. Recognize and be sensitive to those things. So we see those signs such as relationship problems, maybe withdrawal from friends, maybe alcohol, maybe behavioral problems, that you just see someone who's not quite acting the same. And then you have plenty of resources. One thing about the Army, we have a wealth of resources. We have more resources than anybody else all across the Department of Defense to reach out and help people that need that help. Such things as behavioral health, the chain of command, friends, comrades, and then also things like Military One Source and our behavioral health specialists. There's many, many more organizations out there that we'll talk about this month and this week. But just remember that your actions do make a difference, and your actions can make a difference in somebody's life. So again, I just ask you to please think about that during this month. Without further ado, I'm very, very happy to welcome our football legend, and really our legend who's helping us over the last couple of years. This is not the first time that I've had the privilege to be with Herschel Walker. He's gone around our Army and around our services talking to soldiers and families. So thank you very much for being here today. It's a great honor. And you know, at the University of Georgia, Herschel set an NCAA freshman rushing record and helped capture the National Collegiate Football title. He earned All-American honors 3 consecutive years and won the 1982 Heisman Trophy in his junior year. In 1983, he Mr. Walker turned professional, joining the New Jersey Generals of the short-lived United States Football League. Dominated that league, earning the most valuable player honors and setting the single-season pro football rushing record. Herschel then joined the Dallas Cowboys in 1986, where he led the entire NFL in rushing. He moved on to the Minnesota Vikings as a starting running back in 1989, and in 1982 he joined the Philadelphia Eagles, and then returned to the Dallas Cowboys in 1996 and retired from the NFL in 1997. Herschel is one of the very top running backs in professional football, setting records for yards gained during his career. And then in 2008, he published his memoir, Breaking Free: My Life with Dissociative Identity Disorder. Following the release of his memoir, Herschel became the spokesman for the Freedom Care Program, a specialized mental health and addiction treatment program for service members. Herschel's a true friend of the military, and I know this personally, not just from where he's been around, but personally from watching him. And he's visited, I think you said, over 45 installations now, sharing the history and his story and of hope to thousands of our troops. And it strikes me that professional athletes and members of the military have many, many things in common. We all strive to be the top of our game all the time. And we all have to be in top physical condition and mental condition because our jobs and our partners all depend on that. And we're part of a team like no other teams. And we have to work together to whether it's put the ball across the goal or it's to win and defeat our nation's enemies. But because of the nature of our profession, the nature of the lives that we've chosen, sometimes we're a little bit afraid to admit some help if we need it. We think we're too strong and too tough to do that, and we don't want to do it. I'm sure Herschel will agree with me when I say we all must get past this stigma, this perceived sign of stigma that being afraid is being weak. And so here today, without further ado, I want to introduce Herschel Walker, and certainly someone who is not weak, but extremely strong on the field and off the field, and for everything he's done for our soldiers and nations. Please join me in a round of applause for Walker.
First, I'm going to acknowledge the Lord Jesus Christ because he said if you don't acknowledge him, he's not going to acknowledge you. And when I come knocking, I'm in to let me in. You know, I always tell the story about this man that had these two little twin boys. One little boy is always positive in life. No matter whatever happened to that kid, he's positive about everything. But this other little kid is always negative. No matter whatever happened to that kid, he's negative about everything. And the father don't know what's going on because they're twins, but they're so opposite. So around Christmas time, he's tried this little experiment. He put this negative little kid in this room with nothing but brand new toys. But he put this positive little kid in this room with nothing but horse manure. And after an hour or so, he looked in on this negative little kid and he's complaining. I don't want this toy, I want that toy. I don't like this, I like this. I don't like that bike, I want this bike. I don't want this, I want that. Father knew that this kid is never going to amount to anything because nothing ever makes him happy. But he looks in on this positive little kid that's in the room with the horse manure. He's got a shovel. He's shoving this horse manure over his shoulder. He's laughing and singing and having a good time. First thing the father thinking, this kid is crazy. But he asked him, says, son, what's going on? What's going on? The little boy looked at his dad and says, you know, Dad, as much horse manure as there's in this room, there must be a pony at the bottom of it. And the reason I tell you that is we all have a pony, but sometimes we can't see that pony because we got so much crap around us that we don't want to dig. But I'm here to tell you that if you have a big shovel, you'll find that pony, because as I stand here before you right now, this is not the Herschel Walker of that stuff that he was just reading about, because I'm going to take you back a little ways. When I grew up, my mother made me feel good. She told me I was big bone. A lot of my friends said, no, you're fat, you're chubby, you're big. I had teachers that put me in the corner. The teachers told me I was special. And then, you know, what's so funny, I used to stutter real bad. I used to beat myself up because I couldn't get my words out, so all the kids made fun of me. And because I was so weak, they used to beat me up. So for 4 years, I never took a recess. The 4 years, I never went out for recess. So the last day of school in the 8th grade, I thought it was okay to go out for recess. So I remember going outside, and I looked out, and I could see all the kids out in the playground playing and stuff, and I thought it was okay to go out. So I remember stepping over that threshold, getting outside, and there was a kid by the name of Anthony Logan. He jumped on me, and he beat me up. And what's so funny, I still remember his name, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I Google him today sometimes, just trying to come up with him. And I haven't found him yet, but I've been Facebooking him and stuff, but he beat me up and stuff, and all the kids were laughing, and they thought it was funny. And I remember getting on the school bus and going home, and all the kids are laughing at me. And I got home, and I'm going to take y'all back a little ways again. Gilligan's Island was on. And I remember looking at Gilligan Island, and I said, enough is enough. I said, I would never get beat up again. I said, I won't have a teacher to ever put me in the corner again. I said, I'm not going to take that no more. So I started doing these push-ups. I started doing about 5,000 push-ups every day. I started doing about 5,000 sit-ups every day. I used to go outside, and my parents had a tree in the backyard, and I used to climb this tree, and I was 10 feet off the ground. I started doing chin-ups. And I went to the library, started getting books, reading to myself, where my speech got a little bit better. Where instead of walking with my head down, I started to rise up a little bit. And I had that eye of the tiger. And I went back into the 9th grade, and now I got some guns on me now. So I don't have kids picking on me. Instead of going into that corner, I sat out front of the class, and I started answering questions. So all of a sudden, that guy that the teachers put in the corner becomes valedictorian of his class. Well, no, that's not good, because that was 2 people in my class. I could write, the other guy couldn't and stuff. No, I'm just joking. That was a little bit more. So this kid becomes valedictorian of his class, and also this kid comes back to school, and you remember in the 9th grade, I was one of the fastest kids in the state of Georgia. Remember, that was just little fat kids that kids didn't want to play with. And I started playing this game called football. People didn't know I didn't even like football. The only reason I played football, my mother used to make me wash dishes. So I thought if I played football, she wouldn't let me wash dishes anymore. And I was wrong. Now I got to wash dishes and play football. So I had a little bit more work to do. I was pretty good at this game. But so all these colleges started coming for me to go to college and stuff. And let me tell you, I didn't want to go to college. People don't know I was going to the Marines. I had an uncle in the Marines and stuff, and I wanted to be a Marine. I thought I was a good guy to be in the Marines and stuff, with all the push-ups and stuff I was doing. But I couldn't bring myself to tell my parents I wanted to go to the Marines because, you know, I was valedictorian. I have all these scholarships from all over the world and stuff. And people don't know I got drafted by the Milwaukee baseball team. I was a center fielder in baseball and stuff. And I had all this potential, as people say, but I wanted to be in the military. I wanted to do something for my country, I felt. But my mother always used to say, if your heart and your mind is pure to the Lord Jesus, it really don't matter what the decision you make, because he'll make it the right one. Well, I'm a teenager. I'm a little rebellious. So I told her I'd flip a coin then. Go to the military or go to college. I got to go to college. And I go, crap. Because now God won't let me do what I want to do. So I'm not going to the University of Georgia because everybody in the state of Georgia want me to go to Georgia, and I'm not going to go. My parents wanted me to go, and they used to say, I'm not going to tell you where to go, Herschel, but your sister is at the University of Georgia. But you make your own mind up, but if anything goes wrong, we're only an hour and a half away. You can come home, but this is your decision. So I said, okay, I'd like to go to Clemson. So I'm going to flip a coin between Clemson University, because everybody hated Clemson in Georgia. So I'm going to flip between Clemson and University of Georgia. First flip, Georgia wins. I say the best out of 5. This is true. Next 2 times, Georgia wins. I said, you know, Mom, I love to go to USC, because I felt if I can go to USC, it was so far from home, they'll let me go to the Marines. First flip, Georgia wins. Next flip, USC. The next 2 times, Georgia. I said, no, I'm going to pull the names out of a bag. True story. I pulled Georgia all 3 times. This is totally true. I said at that time, I'm going to Georgia, and I didn't mean it. I went outside to play with my younger brother. They called Coach Dooley and all the reporters up, said he's decided he's coming to Georgia, he's coming to Georgia. Well, all the reporters showed up at my home that night, and I was too embarrassed to tell them I was joking, that I signed to go to the University of Georgia, and I didn't want to go. Well, what was so strange is that night, the head coach at the University of Georgia came up to my father and myself on my front porch, and he said, we're very happy to have Herschel at the University of Georgia, but we really don't think he can play at the University of Georgia. He said, you know, he's from such a small town, we don't think he's up for that type of competition. And all my life, I've heard people tell me that I'm not good enough. Now I thought I worked myself up to be good enough, but now I got a college coach that I just give my life to telling me I'm not good enough again. So I said, okay, 7,500 push-ups, 7,500 sit-ups, serious business. I got ready to go. I got the letter to be there at the University of Georgia at 5 o'clock. I remember getting up at 2 in the morning, driving to the University of Georgia. I get there about 3:45, and it's dark outside. There are no cars outside and stuff. It's dark and stuff. And about 4 o'clock, it's still no cars outside. It's dark. About 4:45, and it's dark. And I'm thinking, am I in the wrong place? And I remember running up to the cafeteria, and the letter I got is in the window, and it said, be there by 5 p.m. So I'm a little bit early right now. So I remember going out, getting in my car, getting out of my car, getting in my car, getting out of my car, and all of a sudden, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, this white 280ZX drives up. And you ever had a puppy when you come home, he's so happy to see you, about to shake himself to death. And I remember this car drove up, and I haven't seen anyone, and I run up to this guy that was getting out, and this real good-looking Hispanic guy gets out of the car, and I run up to him, and I stick my hand out like that, and he goes, freshman, take my bags up to the room. So I grab his bags, and I run them up to the room and stuff, and I go back to him, and he goes, freshman, take my car around back. So I go get in this car, and I take it around back, and then all of a sudden I go back to him and go, freshman, wash my car. I'm thinking, this dude getting carried away, but I'm going to be nice. And I go out and I wash his car. So about that time, this meeting started, and all the upperclassmen are coming in, and now they're making us do all these stupid things. We're playing leapfrog and all this, and they got me standing in the corner with my nose in a circle like a crane on one leg. I'm just standing there and stuff, and all of a sudden this real good-looking Hispanic guy gets up, and he said, I'm going to declare to take Herschel Walker as my little brother. And they go to Coach Dooley for a ruling, and Coach Dooley said, if you want to do that, he can do that. So Frank turned to me, and he said, Herschel, sit down. So no other upperclassman said a word to me all day. And I didn't know what that meant. So later that night, I said, Frank, what's going on? What's going on? And Frank said, well, Herschel, everybody on this team, we decided we were going to make your life miserable here. But he said, but, you know, when you came, you did everything I asked you to do. So you never said a word. And I said, you should have known what I was thinking, though. And you probably would have done that. And he said, so I didn't want these guys to hurt you. So now football started. And I mean, let me tell you, first day of football, I'm a freshman at the University of Georgia. I run a 4.25 at 210 pounds. A 4.25 is getting it. You can go get it. But this coach is still not going to let me play. This coach still got me in the 14 running back. I thought I was doing well, and he just said, well, Herschel's okay, and all this stuff he was saying about me. And I was a mama's boy, and I would call home, and my mother said, don't worry about it. The Lord is making a way for you. And I'm thinking, what God got to do with football and stuff? So I would call home, so we're playing, and all of a sudden we play the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Tennessee, 92,000 people there at the game. 2,000 from Georgia. They put them in the end zone so they couldn't be seen or heard and stuff. And now in Georgia, we're getting beat like 15-0. And all of a sudden, there was a chant started. We want Herschel. From these 2,000 people, this in God is showing his mansion right now. We want Herschel. 2,000 people over 90,000. We want Herschel. And it got so loud, Coach Dooley decided to throw me into the game. Well, he threw me into the game, and now we win the game 16-15. I scored 2 touchdowns, and now he's got to let me play the next game. And we played Texas A&M, and we beat them like 42-0 and stuff. And I scored 3 touchdowns, have 180 yards in 3 quarters, and now he's got to let me play my freshman year. Well, what's so fun is Coach Dooley is real big on rules and stuff, and you have to make your bed, you have to be out of the room at a certain time, and your room has to be clean and stuff. But he didn't know that I was a good student, so I got good grades, and my mother used to spank me if I didn't do my room, so I knew how to make my bed, I knew how to do all those things, so now you got to let me play it. Now we win a national championship. He was talking about the national championship that we won and stuff, and what was so fun, I get nominated for the Heisman Trophy. I'm going to tell y'all another secret. I didn't even know what the Heisman Trophy was. I never followed football. I never looked at football. I never seen football before. All I did, I read about football. I never played football, so I went to see what the Heisman Trophy really meant. Man, I didn't realize that's a big-time award. I was like, wow, crap. I was, man, that's big time. So I got excited because the whole University of Georgia got excited, but you know what? I didn't even win it. They gave it to George Rogers. And I was much better than George Rogers and stuff. But all of a sudden, we go into my sophomore year, and the same thing happened. We have this unbelievable season because people don't know I only lost 1 regular season game my whole time there at Georgia. I'm nominated for the Heisman Trophy again and stuff, and Do y'all know I didn't win it again? They gave it to Marcus Allen. And I know I'm better looking than Marcus Allen and stuff. And then we go into my junior year, and this is what's so strange about it. Going into my junior year, I had decided, you know what? I've done everything my parents wanted me to do. I've done everything the state of Georgia wanted me to do. Why don't I do what Herschel wanted to do? So I made my mind up the last day of training camp. The next day I was going to go and I was going to sign and enlist and go to the Marines. But this is how God is always playing these tricks on me, because the last play of that practice of the last day of training camp, I was running this play and I slipped 2 yards and fell out of bounds. And if y'all remember my junior year, I broke my thumb and I broke my finger. And I remember looking at it and the bone was sticking out through it, and I went, crap, man. And I grabbed it and I put it back in place, but I couldn't move it. And it was amazing that my hand swelled up so fast. And I'm like, good, geez, I can't even use this hand no more. So now I can't even go join the Marines. And I'm like, geez. Now I go to the hospital and they do what they call a local. You know, a local where they put the circulation off. But what was so funny about it, they charged me this huge bill, but the only thing the doctor did was he took a power decker drill and he took these pins about this long and he drilled them into my finger like this here, and he took some wire cutters and cut them off. And I was thinking my dad could have done that for cheaper and stuff. But then he took the thing off, and I remember walking out of the hospital room, and I saw a nun coming in. And she said, you look like, that was a Herschel Walker. She said, what happened? I said, I broke my finger. She said, the Lord is making a way for you. I said, she's got to know my mom. Well, it was so funny. I went back to campus. And I don't know if you've ever been in Georgia, and during the summer, it is hot. I tell people, it is so hot. I saw a dog chasing a rabbit, and both of them was walking at that time. But it was strange because I was sitting under this shed. I was sitting under this shed and stuff, and it was so hot out there, and they got a fan on me. The team is out there practicing and stuff, and I started realizing that I had been so selfish, because these guys are my teammates. They've been there with me the whole time. Herschel been getting all these articles written about him. They are not getting anything wrote about them. And I said, oh, I'm not leaving these guys. I'm going to go back and help these guys. And now we have another incredible year, and now I win the Heisman Trophy. Well, what was so funny about it, now I don't think I deserved it, because we got Elway, we got Eric Dickerson, we got Dan Marino, Anthony Carter, and I'm like, geez. So I remember doing my acceptance speech, and I said, guys, I feel like the Susan Lucci of the Heisman Trophy. And they ain't like that. And I just read, just the other day, Eric Dickerson tweeted that he should have won the Heisman Trophy. And I told Eric, we can fight about it, and I haven't heard from him no more. But it was so funny, because now I decided to leave the University of Georgia, go to the USFL, and people, if you remember, the USFL was owned by Donald Trump. That's how I got to know Donald. I knew Donald before he wore the Donald, and that is his hair. What he does, he combing over different. You know, it's like straw, so he combing over, he moose it. So if you know about moose, that's what's happening to him and stuff. And then what was so funny after that is I go into the Dallas Cowboys. Now, let me tell you what. Now, that's a team. Tom Landry, best coach that ever coached football. I can tell you that right now. I get a chance to play for him, and then I get a chance to play for Tony Dorsett and all these guys, and like absolutely incredible team and stuff. And then all of a sudden, this whirlwind happened, because a guy by the name of Jerry Jones from Arkansas with Jimmy Johnson came in, and they fired Coach Landry. You can't fire a legend, but they let a legend go. But, you know, I'm just a player, so I'm just going to play. It doesn't matter. And also let me go to training camp with Jimmy Johnson. It's a tough training camp. And then all of a sudden the season is about to start and stuff. And about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a call from Jimmy Johnson. I get a call that said, Herschel, can you come over to see us for a minute? So I remember going over to see Jimmy Johnson, and it's so strange because whenever I get a call, it's the coaches calling me because they want me to talk to some player that's in trouble, or they want me to help out something that is going on. So I'm thinking, who's in trouble and this and that. And I remember walking into Coach Landry's old office, and the secretary is there, but she's crying. And I'm thinking, has someone died, or what's going on? And so I walked into Jimmy's office, and Jerry Jones is standing in the back. Jimmy was sitting down. As soon as I walked in the office, Jimmy jumped up and said, Herschel, we just traded you to Minnesota. What do you think? I said, I'm going to go outside and think about this for a second. So I turned around, and I walked outside. I walked outside into the parking lot, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to go home. I got in my car, and I went home. When I got home, my wife was there, and she said, what's going on? What's going on? I said, they just traded me to Minnesota. She said, they can't trade you to Minnesota because you got a no trades clause in your contract. I said, I know they can't trade me to Minnesota, but Jimmy just told me they traded me to Minnesota. So now I'm sort of big time because I got an agent. So I called my agent up and said, Peter, Jimmy just told me they traded me to Minnesota. He said, they can't trade you to Minnesota because you got a no trade clause in your contract. I said, I know, but they just traded me to Minnesota. He said, I will be there tomorrow. Peter showed up at Dallas, Texas, went into Jimmy's office, and Jimmy was like I was, that I didn't read PM at the bottom of my paper. He didn't read down at the contract that Herschel can't be traded. So now he and Jerry Jones got a problem because they traded and signed a contract with Mike Lynn at the Minnesota Vikings that I'm traded to Minnesota, but I can't be traded. So now they don't want to tell the state of Texas that they just traded Herschel to Minnesota. So if you remember, I played 5 games with the Cowboys before I left to go to Minnesota because I was not going to Minnesota. And I was going to let them know I'm going to stay here in Dallas because I love the Dallas Cowboys. Well, I played there in Dallas until Mike Lynn called up Jerry Jones and Jerry, if you don't get Herschel Walker in Minnesota, I guarantee you we're going to own the Cowboys. So Jerry went to my agent and said, Peter, what do we have to do to get Herschel in Minnesota? So I said, I tell you what, Peter. Peter came to Cindy and I tell you what, Peter, this is what we want. Cindy and I wrote all this junk that we wanted. We owe all this money. We're going to use Jerry Plain for 5 years. We're going to do this here. We want all this stuff that, and we were going to let Jerry Jones know that I'm not going to Minnesota and stuff. I'm not going to go. And Peter said, Herschel, he ain't going to give you all that stuff. I said, Peter, you didn't ask me what he was going to give me. You asked me what I wanted. Peter said, I want a bass boat. I said, put it on the list then. So he wrote it on this list and stuff. And I was living in Las Colinas and stuff in Cottonwood Valley. And the Four Seasons was across the street, and Peter was going to meet Jerry Jones over there, and he grabbed his list, and he went over there, and Jerry jumped up when he saw Peter, said, Peter, what we have to do to get Herschel in Minnesota? Peter said, Herschel said, if you agree to all this here, go to Minnesota. Jerry Jones never looked at it. He grabbed the list, he signed it, got someone to witness it, said, so when can we get him there? And Peter said, are you serious? Jerry said, yes, when can we get him there? Peter came back to the house, and he go, Herschel, Jerry agreed to everything. I said, what? I said, where the heck is Minnesota at? And so now I got to go to Minnesota because I'm a man of my word, and I go to Minnesota. Let me tell you what, Minnesota is a hidden secret. One of the best places in the world to live. Terrible football team, but one of the best places in the world to live. So I go to Minnesota. I'm there for 3 years. I absolutely love Minnesota till it got to the point. You know how a marriage just don't work and you got to get out of there? I decided I'm going to leave Minnesota. I'm getting out of here. Well, they said, where you going? I said, you know what? I love Reggie White. Reggie White and I have known each other forever. I'm going to play with the Minister of Defense. So I go to Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. But let me tell you, ain't too much love in Philly. I was there in Philly threw snowballs at Santa Claus. Hey, those are some tough people, but they love their football team. So I'm there in Minnesota in Philadelphia for a long time playing football, and then for 1 year I played with the Giants. Terrible decision there. Oh, awful decision there. And then all of a sudden I get a call from Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones said, Herschel, do you have any hard feelings against me? I said, Jerry, you made me a lot of money. I said, no, I don't have no hard feelings against you. He said, how do you like to come back to the Cowboys? I said, I love to come back to the Cowboys. So they signed me to come back to the Dallas Cowboys, and now I'm playing for a couple of more years. And I'll tell you what happened, what really freaked me out. We practiced against the Oakland Raiders, and all of a sudden, I'm out there lining up to run this route, and this kid come up to me and said, hello, Mr. Walker, how you doing? And I looked over at him, I said, Anthony? It was Anthony Dorsett, Tony Dorsett's son. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I played with your dad, and now I'm playing with the son, but I still schooled him. And I took him to town, and then all of a sudden we played the Washington Redskins. And we were warming up, and this kid run over to me and said, hello, Mr. Walker, how you doing? Hey, this is Ron Spring's son. I remember wrestling with these kids on the floor, and I'm like, wait a minute, I played with your dad, and now I'm playing with the son. We played the Carolina Panther, and this kid come up to me and go, hello, Mr. Walker, how you doing? John Casey. So wait a minute, I must get old. Everybody now is calling me Mr. Walker in the NFL. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm getting too old. I need to get out of this. So I decided to leave football. But as I was leaving football, something weird happened. Cindy started telling me about these things I was doing that I wasn't even aware I was doing them. I'm thinking, Cindy's losing her mind. I know I'm not like that. I said, no, Herschel's not like that there. She said, yeah, you doing all these crazy things. And I was like, oh, geez. Well, what really freaked me out That was this guy that was going to deliver me a car. I love these old street rides. I work on like these old cars. This guy was going to deliver me a car, but what happened was he told me he was going to be there like on a Monday. And Monday came and he didn't show up. I canceled my day and waited for him. He didn't even call me. Called me on Wednesday, said, "Oh, Herschel, I'm so sorry. You know, something happened. You know, the dog ate your homework or some crazy stuff. And you're going to be there on Thursday." So I canceled my whole day. The guy didn't show up. Didn't call me. Called me the next Monday. Well, this happened to me for almost 3.5 weeks. This is almost a month. This guy tells me he's going to be there. I canceled my day, didn't show up. Now this guy shows up, but he don't even show up in Irving, Texas, where I was living. He shows up in Arlington. Didn't even tell me he was coming. I get a call from a guy at a service station, said, "Herschel, there's a guy here that has a car he's going to deliver to you. What do you want me to do?" I said, "Tell him to stay there." I worked in law enforcement, so I had a gun. I put this gun in my holster. I said, "I'm going to kill this dude." I'm serious. I said, "I'm going to kill him." I jumped in my car and jumped on 183, and I started racing toward 183, and something on his shoulder said, "Herschel, you got to quit people from disrespecting you like that." Something over here said, "You know what, your parents didn't raise you like that." "Oh, yes, they did." "Oh, no, they didn't." These voices are going off in my head. I thought I was losing my mind. And all of a sudden, as I got closer to this guy, I started to pray. I said, "Lord, you need to help me right now." I said, "I'm about to do something so stupid right now." I said, "I need your help." And about that time, I drove up behind this truck, and there was a sign on a bike that said, "Honk if you love Jesus." And it calmed me down. And I went back to Cindy, and I said, "Cindy, I do have a problem." I said, "Something is wrong." She said, "I know." She said, "You know, 1 o'clock in the morning, you get up sometime and you start pacing the floor like a caged lion." She said, "You just walk around." And I'm like, "You sure?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "You do all those things." And I said, "Oh, wow, we need help." So first thing we did, we turned to the church. Well, I told the preacher about what was going on with me. Now, he's shocked because, you know, I'm Herschel Walker. He's shocked. He read about this Herschel Walker, and he tell the whole congregation. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to a church in Texas, but the congregation in Texas is like 4,500. That's more people in the church than in my hometown. So all 4,500 people know that I got a problem now, but they're going to do this exorcist. And I seen that TV show, so I figured she got better, so maybe I can get better too. So I remember getting in this room with like 12 people from the church. They started this chant and all this crazy stuff, and this is in Irving, Texas. I started laughing, and I said, "Cindy, these people are crazy." I said, "Let's get out of here." My mother killed me, and she knew I was in here with these people here, so we walked out. And we went to Pastor Evans, Tony Evans at Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship. And Pastor Evans prayed with me, and he said, "Herschel, sometimes we make a mistake that we pray sometimes, think God is just going to make it happen, like he's going to throw it out of the sky and it's just going to happen to us." He said, "It doesn't work like that." He said, "You have to get up and you have to do something." So we continued to look around for some help and stuff, and we came into a doctor that was from Africa. His name was Jerry Magazi. Well, it was funny because as I was talking with Jerry started asking me about my symptoms and stuff, and he said, "It sounds like you have something what we call DID." I said, "What is that?" He said, "You have dissociative identity disorder." I said, "What is that?" He said, "You have multiple personalities." And the first thing I thought was Sybil. And I'm thinking, this doctor from Africa, so he don't know what the crap he's talking about. But I'm going to go with it because I'm going to be respectful. And he said, I heard you like to journal, because I've been journaling since I was like forever. Well, it was so funny because he said, "Why don't you get some of the stuff you've been writing and read it?" Well, my mother's like a pipe rat. She keeps everything. And I've been journaling since I was like 10 to 12 years old. So I asked my mom to send some of the stuff up that I've been writing and stuff. Well, it's going to freak you out when I started reading this. I started reading some of the stuff I was writing as a little boy. And as the little boy that started working out, I said, I'm going to start working out to get bigger so I can break some necks of those kids that's picking on me. Well, that's what I wrote. And I said, you know, when Frank Ross told me that, "Herschel, I'm going to become your big brother, so the team is not going to bother you," I wrote in something that said, "I want them to try because I would shoot them all." And I wrote this as a little kid. I had so much anger, But what I was doing is I was using this football and all this athletic world as my coping mechanism. Like sometimes we may use like eating, we may use alcohol, we may use drugs as our coping mechanism because we don't want to say what the real problem is. So now it hit me for the first time, Herschel, you know, you do have a problem. So I went to Jerry and with Pastor Evans and with Cindy, and I said, guys, I have a serious problem. And I said, I need to go to a hospital. And they said, you sure? I said, yeah. I said, I need help. I said, I need to go to a hospital. So they found a hospital out in California for me to go to. So I went out to this hospital for 30 days because, you know, I'm one of these tough, real extreme, tough guys. So I was going to go to this hospital for 30 days because I needed help. And I went out to this hospital, and I remember sitting in this first group session. And I said, nah, these people are crazy. I was listening to some of those people, and I'm like, these people are nuts. So I started lying because I don't know if I had a lot of personality, but I had one inside me that can lie. He was pretty good because I started lying because I was not going to tell these people who I were because who I was. I was not going to let them get out and come to my house. These people are crazy. So I lied to them for the first couple of days, and I had been there for about 11 days, and I've been working with this lady that she told me her name was Martha. I've been working with her for a long time. Well, on the 11th day, as I was walking down the hall, I saw her, and I said, good morning, Martha, how you doing? And she turned to me and said, my name is Joan. Uh-oh. So I eased over and I asked the doctors, and they said, well, Herschel, she's going through what you're going through. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, her husband was abusing her. Said he was abusing her, and he put her in the hospital a couple of times. Said she reached out to law enforcement for help, and they wouldn't help her. Said she turned to a lot of family members and said that they didn't help her. Till she decided to become someone that can help herself. So she became this Martha who can deal with a male figure. So when you first walked in here, she didn't trust you. So you were dealing with this tough lady. Said now she trusts you and you're dealing with the right one. And it hit me for the first time. That's what I've been all my life. All my life, remember, I was told I wasn't good enough. All my life I was fat, chubby, so I wasn't good enough. So I became this guy that was good enough, had no pain. And if you Google this, I dislocated my shoulder. The second play of the game in the national championship game where the top of my shoulder was in front of me. And the doctors and trainers told me that I couldn't play no more. And I said, why? They said, you dislocated your shoulder. Well, I'm smarter than I look. So I said, if it's dislocated, that means you can put it back. They said it takes surgery to put it back. And I said, surgery didn't take it out. And if you Google this, you'll see I laid on the sideline. They put a foot here, one there, and they snapped it back in place, and I shook it off. And I went out there and played, and you remember when I broke my thumb, and I was looking at it, and I put it back in place. So all that pain I had, I couldn't deal with my pain because I had so much anger. So that's when I realized we all fall short of the glory of God. What it is, we get too ashamed because we worry about what people are going to think about us, worry about what people are going to say about us. But then I just started to work. I started to tell people who I really was. I started telling people what I was going through. Now, let me tell you what I was going through. Well, Cindy, the woman that I love better than I love myself. I remember one game I played in, and I jumped over the pile, and I landed on my head like a pogo stick. I had no feelings from my shoulder down. And I remember looking up towards heaven, and I said, Lord, you got to help me, because if I leave here, there'll be no one to help Cindy. So I thought of this woman more than I thought of myself. But this woman told me that, Herschel, late at night when I say something to you, you would threaten me that you would kill me. I never knew this. She says, sometimes you'll say, you know what, don't come near me. So I started telling people these things. I started telling people that my favorite game that I used to play was Russian roulette. And people used to say, you were trying to commit suicide? And I said, no. I said, that's a game. That shows how tough I really am. I didn't realize how far lost I was until I started getting help. I started getting help and realizing that we all go through certain things. But you ever seen Rocky? There's about 50 of them out there, I think. But in this one Rocky, That was Rocky that taught this kid from Texas to box. You remember that one? And when he taught him to box and stuff, this kid decided to leave Rocky and go to this guy that looked like Don King. You remember the big mouth guy that looked like Don King, the weird hair? Well, it was weird because this guy made him the champion of the world. Well, what was funny about it, the fans booed him. They said, "You're not a Rocky Balboa, you're not a Rocky Balboa." So this kid worked it up in himself that he wanted to go beat up Rocky. And Rocky had retired. Rocky not fighting anymore. And Rocky was in this bar with his big mouth brother-in-law. You remember him? And they were just drinking and stuff. And this kid met up with Rocky, calling him outside. And Rocky wouldn't come out to fight him. But the big mouth brother-in-law stepped in between them. And this kid swung on him and hit him. And you remember that scene? And Rocky said, "Let's take it outside." And I remember thinking, dude, you're about to get beat up because this is a Rocky movie. But they went outside and they started fighting. And as they started fighting, this kid is beating Rocky up. And he knocks Rocky into this trash. And as Rocky is laying in this trash, the kid and Don King are walking away, patting each other on the back. And you remember Mick? Mick was a Rocky old trainer. He had died in 3 of the Rockies ago with Mr. T. Mick had died, and Mick came to Rocky in this vision, and Mick said, "Get up, you bum." Said, "Get up, one more round." Said, "One more round." And his music started, dun-dun, dun-dun. And I go, uh-oh, something about to happen now. So this kid, Rocky gets up and said, "Come on back, one more." And you remember Rocky handled business. I said, that's the way it is in our life. We get knocked down. I don't care how deep you go. I don't care what happened to you. There's a guy that has died for us and said that, you know what? Just one more. Just get back up. And I'm here to tell you that you can get up. I'm here to tell you that there's a bright light out there. I'm here to tell you that I'm better today than I've ever been. Just admit that I had a problem. I'm safer. I didn't kill the woman I love more than I love myself. She's alive. And you know, it was funny what happened is I lost her, but we're still best friends. But what's strange is I'm here to tell you, people always say, "Herschel, are you weak or like something is wrong with me now?" But you may not know this, but I'm doing this UFC stuff. That's this ultimate fighting stuff. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but these 20-year-olds, they're catching hell with me right now. Because admitting I have a problem was the best thing in the world that ever happened to me. Admitting that I can go on was the best thing that ever happened to me. You heard a story about the man that loved baseball. And as he loved baseball, he's about to leave to go meet his maker. And as he's about to leave to go meet his maker, his other pal came to him and said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you do me a favor?" I said, "What can I do for you? Can you let me know is there baseball in heaven?" Strange request. But as the guy passes away, the other guy's working in his garden that afternoon, and this big cloud of smoke came to him, and he said, "That's got to be my buddy. That's got to be my buddy." He ran up to it and said, "Is there baseball in heaven? Is there baseball in heaven?" And this voice came from the smoke and said, "Well, I got some good and bad news. I don't care about that. Is there baseball in heaven?" Said, "The good news, there's baseball in heaven." And the guy goes, "Yes." Said, "The bad news is you're pitching tomorrow." And the reason I tell you that, don't put off anything right now, because we're not promised tomorrow. So if you have a friend that's struggling, if you know a loved one that's struggling, or if you are struggling, don't be ashamed to say don't be ashamed of it. I was looking at WWF, and I heard someone say something that I use now, that I'm twisting, stealing sex appeal. And I said, that's what we all are, because we are God's DNA. That means we're a bad man or woman. Hey, thank you for giving me this opportunity. God loves you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I'll call you Mr. Walker. I don't know what's big. Well, I was thinking it made me feel good. Maybe I'm older, but I felt younger if I said it. This is on behalf of the entire Army. We're presenting, Jefferson presented these cups similar to this, and he called them friendship cups. And we want to present it and say thank you for being a friend for the military, Thank you for having the courage to care, the courage to connect, and the courage to change the stigma of behavioral health seeking. Thank you.
Well, thank you once again to Mr. Herschel Walker. You gotta love a guy who teaches us how to renegotiate our contracts. Boss, we're right here. And you know you gotta love somebody who brings up Rocky Balboa, you know. Thank you to General Bromberg and also to Lieutenant General Patricia Horoho, the Army's Surgeon General. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal portion of our kickoff event. We invite you to join us as we view our exhibits and learn about risk reduction and reducing stigma, reaching out for help, and helping others. Thank you again for attending. Army Strong. Hoo.